Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
All right, real quick, y'all, some business to attend to. Do me a favor, if you are subscribed to the channel, please, I know it's a pain, it really is, but it's not me, I promise. Make sure you are still subscribed. YouTube has this weird thing at times of unsubscribing people without letting them know. I know a couple of you have even told me, and thank you for continuing to do it, that you've been unsubscribed multiple times. I'm actually at a net negative for subscribers for the past 2 months consecutively. Never had a month of negative subscriber growth in the entire existence of the channel. I know other people that I know that are YouTubers that I talk to, the same thing is happening to them. So please make sure you are subscribed. And if you're not, you should be, right? So there's that too as well. All right, let's dig into this. So Satu Sabali, right? Y'all know who Satu Sabali is. Satu, or I used to say that before she started talking. Uh, but anyway, we all know about multiple times, right? Multiple times for her specifically, the player who's never played more than a full season once. I guess maybe this last one was probably her best, maybe second best. I'd have to check again, but she's spent a lot of her career missing a lot of games. She was very vocal, very adamant about the whole not playing back to back thing, despite the fact that on average, the WNBA players get a lot more rest than their NBA counterpoints. And I only bring that up because we keep hearing about the NBA and what they make in terms of their players. Well, so apparently right now, Sadhu Sabali she's okay. Okay. She's resting comfortably. Apparently she has had a number of panic attacks. As news comes out from the WNBA, which we're going to get to to in a minute. Yeah, I just made that up. Okay, just for the people who are gonna run with it. But you will see why in a moment. It makes sense. That may be really happening. But as you can see here, Project B Tokyo stopped to conflict with proposed WNBA start date. And a couple of really important things in this. The WNBA has proposed a much earlier start date in the protracted CBA negotiations. And that is one of the big things that we haven't really talked about much. I think we've mentioned it here and there is in order to continue to grow as a league, in order to make the money that they need to make to get the players what the players are demanding, or at least part of it. I don't know that they can get all of what they want, but one of the things that will at some point change again is the length of the season and the number of games that they play. And when the WNBA started, and they did this with soccer as well, it was played in the off season, what we'll call the off season relative to typical leagues, right? The NBA for soccer, all over the world, the top European leagues and everything. It's always been a fall, winter, spring for the most part, long season. And that, and we have other sports, right? College football and the NFL that are immensely popular. So the WNBA was like, well, there's less competition in the summer. And when WNBA started, there wasn't even no, I guess MLS had just started, but they probably didn't think of that as competition. But they're going to have to start creeping at the beginning or at the end because they need to play more games, which is what this is about. So you got to have two big things here is the number of games, the fact that they're going to have to compete. So as we see here, the Women's Basketball League calling itself Project B has announced its first tour dates, and they could overlap with the WNBA calendar. The Startup League, which plans for its inaugural season to begin in November and extend through April, said this week that its Tokyo tournament stop will start March 26th and end April 4. The 5-on-5 League is planning a global series of tournaments in Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Now, why is that a big deal? Because one of the things that might happen with the a new CBA if the WNBA gets to this expanded season, because they're talking about expanding and well, I'll get down to that. I believe it was 54 games, which we'll get down to. Um, and in order to do that, they're going to have to start earlier or end later, maybe a little bit of both. And that was going to mean not just for Project B, but for all overseas leagues, there'll probably be more of an overlap and unrivaled. I don't know that it would get to that far where it would be an overlap, but it would become where unrivaled ends and the WNBA season begins, and there's no off season. It's just like this, like these, we've got a bunch of WNBA players signed up for Project B, but if the WNBA schedule expands, even without the overlap, right? If like we change that by a few weeks, they're playing 12 months of the year. I think one of the things that the WNBA wants to do that we'll probably see is, and rightfully so, especially if these salaries jump to the numbers we've seen proposed even by the WNBA. Forget even being higher if the players got more. But because I think the WNBA proposed like a 6.5. Now it says here 5 million, but I think the WNBA proposed like a 6 million, maybe five and a half. Okay, $5.5 million um, salary cap. They are not going to want, I promise you, it's not done in the NBA. It's not done then with the NFL, Major League Baseball. They're not going to want players to be playing in other leagues. I think that is it's one not being talked about because the focus is on these big things like revenue share. But behind the scenes, I would think that would be the one of the big things from the WNBA side. Say, look, we're giving you all this. You're making this kind of money. There is no more playing in other leagues, right? Our league's gotten longer, which means the off season's shorter, and you need to use that off season to rest and to prepare for the following season, not go play another season of basketball somewhere. So if we get down here, and there's one other key thing we got to talk about. Uh, See, here it is. WNBA proposing an increase from 44 games to between 50 and 54 in the new CBA. The proposed start date for training camp is as early as mid-March, with the finals ending in November. That is more like a typical sports season. Okay. There's not a lot of time in there to have another season that you play elsewhere while also getting any kind of rest at all. A number of league sources expressed confusion over a potential mid-March start date, questioning how training camp could overlap with the NCAA schedule and what the expectations would be for rookies. Training camp started April 27 last year, 2 weeks after the draft. And that was the other thing that I was going to get to is it's a unique situation because obviously you don't have this again like with the NBA and the NFL, and being fall sports and so forth. College seasons end, college players graduate. That they do so heading into with the off season for their sports, and then when that sport starts up again, boom, they hit it. With the WNBA, and they have a bit of an off season, right? Which with the WNBA doesn't have that at all. It's like you get drafted, you jump. I mean, I'm guessing some of them might even be jumping into their teams before they physically graduate from college, now that I think about it. So that is another thing that actually will have to be hammered out is how do we handle a draft? Because I'm guessing they're not going to want players to get drafted in April, but they don't play until the following season, if that makes sense, right? They're not going to want that. But then it becomes, well, you're going to have to get into some weird things again, getting into these types of, temporary contracts and this and that, because you can say, okay, well, they need to be able to keep a roster spot open for drafting for the players that they draft who, get drafted and they may not even report right away. Because don't forget academically, and they might want to stay in school and finish up and graduate. It gets really, really tricky with how they're going to handle that. And then there has to be a roster spot. And that also, again, might only be the very top players. Don't forget, not a lot of rookies make teams, right? They get into training camp and they work and they put in the effort and they get evaluated. Some make the team, some don't. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff going on that's it's going to be a bit of a nightmare for the league to figure out. But one of the big ones, I mean, I think if they're going to do this. Now, this may be phased in, right? This may be, you know, 44 games stays with 44 in 2026. Maybe it goes to 46, 48 the next year if they do a 4 or 5 year CBA. And by the end of the current CBA, you're hitting the 54 games. And we'll see how that goes. But might mean more back-to-backs to two, and it's a longer season, so you might actually have to get off your butt and do some work. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate you checking out the video. As always, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Go have the day you deserve. Shout out to the 19. I will talk to you later.